All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Change Your World. Kyle Hurd here with Tom and Linda. And today we're going to do a little bit of talking about uh, the abortion law in Alabama and Georgia, and then kind of maybe a little bit of discussion and disagreement, or just kind of a talk on the actual abortion and um, where we are here in the United States. Kind of the Roe versus Wade talk. Maybe we'll get into a little bit of debunking some abortion myths. I'm not sure.
All right.
But so how are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Great.
Great. Beautiful day.
It is indeed.
So,
Getting right on topic here.
okay.
Obviously, most people would know there's been quite a few states, Alabama and Georgia have been in the news here recently. I mean, maybe that's because we live in the Georgia, Alabama region that it
Right.
seems to be more, uh, in our faces or whatever. But Missouri has one they came out with. Kansas has one. There's been a couple of states that have come out
Right.
with
Yeah.
restrictions on abortion.
Right. Yep.
Georgia has I think it's 6 weeks, the heartbeat bill, basically.
Right. Right.
There's no restrictions prior to that, and then after that, it would require, health of the mother kind of thing, or I think life of the mother. I think they left out the health.
Right.
And then Alabama's law, which has everybody up in arms, is if held up as constitutional, I guess, would ban abortion 100%.
No exceptions.
No exceptions. Obviously, except for life of the mother.
Yeah.
But that's
Right.
the only restriction that they have.
Mhm.
So you're seeing a lot of stuff about how, women are going to go to jail if they have a miscarriage.
Which is ridiculous. Not in either of those bills.
Yeah. There's a lot of misinformation, fake news, we'll say,
Fake news.
out there about it. But what are your guys' takes on it?
Well, we have always taken the stance that abortion is wrong. Abortion is, basically killing a living person. It's just, in the process of growing. So we're definitely for anything that's going to limit or curb abortion. We're for it. And I know there's a lot of nuances in this topic, and I guess I'll start by telling you my hesitation.
Well, why don't, since
or
you're a man and we don't care about your opinion, why don't
Well,
we
that's
let Linda give her
okay.
her take on it?
Okay, you're right. How silly of
Well,
me.
it's all these men are making women have or keep their babies, and no woman would be pro-life. So let's go ahead and debunk that now.
Okay.
Yes, I am definitely pro-life. And it just hurts me when I hear about, women choosing to end the life of their child, like it's just an inconvenience. I'm all for protecting life. And if it means, this law that they just passed in Alabama, they're already setting them up for lawsuits against this. But it looked like it was a huge margin that they passed this in both the House and the Senate. I think it said that passed the Senate 25-6 and the House by 74-3.
That's huge.
That is huge.
Well, obviously Alabama is a more red state, but
Sure.
there were some Democrats, I believe, that voted for it,
Mhm.
and Louisiana, which has a Democratic governor, is also looking at it, and the governor said that he would be willing to sign it.
Wow.
So
That's good.
there
Yeah.
is some, bipartisan support.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the other way too. There are some Republicans, I'm sure, that are pro-choice.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Dad and I both, that life begins at conception, whether you know you're pregnant or not. Most of these bills are, like the heartbeat bill. I mean, that's about when you find out that you're pregnant. But we had a discussion yesterday. Some people, I've heard of women that don't even know that they're pregnant until they give birth to the child, but, um, for anyone, I mean, it's horrendous,
Yeah.
to think about what happens to that baby. And once they know that baby, and I don't know how they'll do this. I mean, maybe a gruesome thing, where you have a video in vitro of this baby being torn apart and you see it screaming and hear it screaming.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's
pretty
definitely going
rough.
to be like, okay, that's the death knell to abortion.
Should be.
And I think
But
that,
there'll still be
like
people
the improvement of science and medicine and all that, I think has led to more of a pro-life take for the majority of the population. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
there's plenty of pro-choice people, and I don't think that they're bad, evil people or whatever. I think they're, in my opinion, misunderstood. Or not misunderstood.
Misguided.
They're misguided and
or they
wrong
just
in their
are
thinking.
ignorant of the facts. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they had I saw one video where these pro-choice people went and talked to these people at a rally or whatever, and they're like, are you pro-choice? Are you pro-life? And the people that said that they were pro-choice, they asked them why, and it was woman's right to choose, and it's not really a human being at that point. And then they showed him some videos. They didn't show the videos on the video that I watched, but apparently they were pretty graphic videos, showing an abortion procedure. And just about all of the people that said that they were pro-choice kind of had changed their mind by the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Just one video and they change
Yeah.
their mind.
And see,
Well, because
I mean,
it's a terrible thing to, I've seen it's kind of a rendering of it. It wasn't a real,
Right.
but they, like the first trimester abortions when 6 weeks or whatever, they just kind of stick a tube in there and vacuum the baby out. So it's probably not as gross and graphic, but once you get into second and third trimesters,
Right.
I mean,
I don't understand why a woman would even wait that long.
Well, there's different
I mean,
reasons. Like you
but
say,
this
she may
is
not
like-
even know she's pregnant, or she may just be going back and forth on the decision. Vacillating back and forth.
well, like
There's
if
a
you
lot-
talk to pro-choice people, there's a lot of different. I've had discussions. I'll say discussions because I'll be nice. But I've had discussions with pro-choice people
Right.
about this sort of thing, and they say, well, if you get pregnant and then you're, 10 weeks along, 12 weeks along, 20 weeks along, whatever, and your spouse leaves you, or you lose your job, or your parents get cancer and now you have to take care of your parents, or the 100 different reasons or whatever.
Sure.
And
Well,
sure, all those things are terrible things that happen to you, and I'm very sorry that they did, but it doesn't change the fact that you're not allowed to kill somebody else because you're in financial trouble, or
Right.
All
you're
those
stressed
things
out.
could happen after the baby's born too.
right.
And so what does that mean?
And then
Yeah.
there's alternatives. I mean, that's why it's so important to have these clinics, these pregnancy centers, because they give these women information. It's not all about ending the life of your child. Give your child up for adoption.
Yeah.
There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people wanting babies.
Well, they say in
They
America
can't
there's
have
36
children.
couples for every baby that's born, waiting to adopt it.
Wow.
So, I mean, not every baby that's born, every baby that is given up for adoption.
Right, and even after
There's
the baby's
35
born,
extra couples.
and if she can't keep the baby, there's always that. Or like you said, the law that they have in place now, where you can drop the baby off at the fire department or the police department or
Hospital.
a hospital, and there's no, they're not going to press charges against the mother for abandonment. It's just, there's all of those things. Why does it have to be just, it's an abortion? And the part of it that makes me the most upset is to see these women that celebrate, and those women that were desecrating the little monument they had set up with the little red crosses, at a pro-life rally, to remember the millions of babies that have been murdered. These girls come trotting across there, kicking the crosses over and using, foul language and, celebrating, look at me. Is that my baby over there? That's just sick. To me, there's just really sickens me that they just cheapen life. There's no regard for life. I found this quote in here, and I know Henry Hyde has some ties to some other things. He's not. I don't believe he's still here on this earth anymore. But he was a Democrat, and he gave 32 years of service in the House of Representatives, and he was very much against abortion. And he has a quote here that I found in this Bible that Dad gave me, the Founder's Bible, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator, human beings upon creation, not upon birth. That is where our human dignity comes from. It comes from the Creator. It is an endowment, not an achievement. By membership in the human family, we are endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights that can't be voted away by a jury or a court, among which are life, the first inalienable right, the first endowment from the Creator. That is mainstream America, the predicate for our Constitution, our country's birth certificate, to respect the right to life as an endowment from the Creator. It is the unborn who are the least of God's creatures. We have been told that whatsoever we do for the least of these, we do unto Jesus. So all these people that throw that scripture around, and justify whatever lifestyle they have or whatever, who do these unto the least of these? Who is the least of these? Those that are in the womb that don't even have a voice, And that's true, That's one of our rights, right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yep.
That's the
you
first.
Got to have life to have the other two.
Yeah. So.
Well, just to say this too, you see the liberals going crazy. Alyssa Milano is telling all women that they shouldn't have sex since the Georgia bill passed. I can't imagine. I mean, that was the Georgia bill, which is the heartbeat bill. Alabama goes even further. I can't. These we're going to see some absolute crazy statements and things go on about this from the liberals. But I think people need to be reminded, why do you suppose it is that right now is when these bills are passed? We've got all these states looking to pass these bills. Was there a
trigger?
A trigger, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's been a few. I mean, obviously, I think the one you're driving at is the New York law.
The New York and the Virginia law, right? And I think a few other states where basically they said, no,
Rhode
abortion
Island, I think,
not going to be limited in any way, shape, or form, even till after the baby's born. If somehow this baby has a Down syndrome or some kind of a disease or some kind of a malady of some sort, the baby is born. They sit it on a table. They quote unquote make it comfortable as the doctor and the mother decide whether this baby will be allowed to live or not.
Mhm.
I mean, that was from the governor of Virginia's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowed to talk about that.
um, so liberals want to get, all indignant about these bills coming out in Georgia and Alabama. They were pretty much an answer to these ridiculous bills that were passed in those other states.
Mhm.
Right.
And if they didn't have any problem with the state of New York changing its abortion laws or the state of Virginia changing its abortion laws, so why should they have a problem with the
Right.
state of Alabama changing its?
And I didn't see any actresses out there, protesting the law in New York.
No.
I didn't see anybody out there protesting. They were all celebrating
cheering,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, there was
here
certainly
the
some
conservatives-
protesting, I think. I mean, I saw some.
Well, not from Hollywood is what she was saying.
No. Yeah, definitely not from Hollywood.
Well, I mean,
I think
and-
even
and-
if somebody in Hollywood wanted to protest that, they
Yeah.
And-
basically can't.
even if they did protest, who covered it? Nobody.
Yeah. Like, because there are a
So-
few, like the woman that was the Deborah in Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh yeah, she's very pro-life.
Yeah, she's pro-life, and I heard an interview where they were talking, and somebody asked her, they're like, "Did you ever lose any work, for your stance on abortion?" She's like, "No, I don't think so,"
Yeah.
And then they got back to her or whatever. There was another interview, and she said, after that interview, I called my agent and I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, there's been at least 10 to 15 jobs
Wow.
where they were like, yeah, we're not going to go with her because of her, her views on this subject."
Yeah.
That seems to be discriminatory to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What would happen if a Christian company didn't hire somebody because they weren't a believer?
Yeah,
Yeah, you never hear the end of it.
or bake a cake
No.
for someone's wedding.
Yeah, right. Crazy. Anyway, so always a double standard.
Yeah.
But here's another thing from this Bible talking about, for example, abortion on demand was not instituted by legislators, but rather by judges who decreed it to be national policy.
That's
In fact,
true.
the Supreme Court had to strike down anti-abortion laws in 46 states to achieve its will. Similarly, the movement, now for same-sex marriage. So I don't even know in the Constitution how they could even justify an
Right.
abortion.
Have
Where
you
did
ever
they?
read the Roe versus Wade?
I have not. No.
It-
But what did they use to justify it?
Well, there was another ruling that they did. I can't remember when it was, but it was the state of Connecticut versus somebody, because the state of Connecticut decided that they weren't going to sell prophylactics to unmarried people. So that was challenged in court and went up to the Supreme Court, and they found in the 14th Amendment a right to privacy.
Oh,
So
that's
then they
right.
used that. It was, emanations from the penumbra was their wording.
Yeah. They use that same 14th Amendment to take prayer out of school,
Yeah.
too. How can they just
They can twist
indiscriminately,
anything they want.
interpret the 14th Amendment?
But the point is, it's not the judicial system. The Supreme Court does not create laws.
No.
But
They interpret it, and they just said the
interpret it and
legislators
enforce it.
are
Interpret it and enforce it.
wrong in your
Right, but in
law.
this
This is
case,
the way
and
it should be
as well as
interpreted.
many other cases we've seen in recent times, there has been laws changed, rewritten, and everything else by the judges, the Supreme Court or lower courts.
Yeah, and that's why too, because of Trump's appointments here, they're all running scared,
Right.
and that's why New York did what they did, because they, got a majority in the House and the Senate, and they had the governor's mansion, so they did what they did, in a hurry.
And I think it was Justice Justice Black, maybe. Anyway, one of the judges, Supreme Court judges in 1973, basically said that the only way Roe v. Wade works is if we consider this fetus to not be full human. That's the only way this works. If it's ever proven that the fetus is a full human, then he is entitled to He is entitled to all the rights, whether he's born or not. So this is one of the justices that even came out and said that in 1973. And like you said, Kyle, and with the advancements in technology, where we have ultrasounds, we have all in utero cameras, we have all this different things. Not to mention just the advancements in being able to understand the complex nature of life a little better than we did. That argument is rapidly going away.
Yeah.
So, it's conceivable that Roe v. Wade wouldn't be able to stand much longer anyway, based on if you took a realistic and a truthful look at it, didn't have your opinion clouded by your agenda.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a terrible ruling just on its face. I mean, if you just look at it from an impartial point of view,
right?
And they always try to hang on to it. Like that's the first question that every justice, when they get appointed, and then they're waiting to be ratified or whatever by the.
How would you vote on this?
What do you think of what's the word I'm thinking of? Where you look back on the previous cases. And
precedent,
yeah. What are your feelings on precedent and the underlying, between the lines on that is, are you going to hold up Roe versus Wade?
Right, because it's a precedent.
Yeah.
They say it without saying it. So yeah.
Because you're not technically allowed to.
Isn't that interesting though? They know that the argument, just the plain out of the box argument for life versus abortion, they're not going to win. So they have to rest on this precedent issue. So you can tell that they don't hold a strong argument there, and they know it. And it's just like the other night I saw there was a debate on Fox News. I think it was on what's her name, 7 o'clock girl on Fox News. Martha McCallum was on her show, and she had a person. They were debating the Alabama law, and there was a person that was in agreement with the law, and then there was a Democratic strategist or somebody on there. And I think the whole reason that they were on there was because they had been raped. This Democratic lady had been raped, and so she was going on and on about the rape. And believe me, I'm not making light of that at all. But the fact was, the whole argument on the other side was an emotional argument about victim of rape. It didn't address the baby at all. Yeah. It was just the rape of the woman, which is horrible, and I'm not downplaying that. But the woman that was for the bill said, well, I appreciate that fact that and it's horrible, and and so on and so forth, but the way that you were conceived, whether it be good or bad, does not affect your personhood. You're still a person, no matter how you were conceived. So, in other words, why punish the baby because of something horrible that happened to the mother?
Yeah.
And it went back and forth. And again, emotion tends to rule the day, in at least in most people's minds. But the person that was for the Alabama law had one question. She said, okay, would you support if we're both in agreement, because she kept saying, yes, abortion is terrible, but you got to look at the woman that's a victim of incest or rape or so on. And so the other woman said, okay, well, would you support this bill if there was an exception for rape and incest? And the Democrat said yes. So you would never expect to hear a Democrat say that,
Yeah.
but she was kind of backed into a corner because her argument rape issue,
Yeah.
right? So I got to thinking about that. You know, the Alabama bill is very plain, no holds barred. Abortion is going to be stopped in Alabama, except, like you say, for the life of the mother. But could it be that their ultimate strategy is to bring the conversation so hard to this side that if we come back just a little bit, we wind up getting rid of everything except rape and incest?
Yeah. Well, I think that is the goal of this Alabama law, because it's not going to be. I mean, it's going to be challenged in court for sure.
Oh,
And there's a chance that I guess it couldn't, could not go to the Supreme Court. They could choose not to take
right.
the case. But I think that is the plan behind it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is to get it in front of the judges and
Yep, I agree.
challenge Roe versus Wade.
I think so too. Yeah.
And
so
back to go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I was going to say, so if it does, hypothetical situation here, if it does get to the Supreme Court again, and I think the chances of them overturning Roe versus Wade are fairly small. I think you have a few judges who would, go for it. I think
I don't think
Gorsuch
Roberts
probably
would. I think Roberts would side with the liberals.
I think he would too. I think Gorsuch would be, willing to hear to get rid of it, and
Kavanaugh maybe.
I'm not sure on Kavanaugh either. But the what's the other one?
Alito, Roberts,
Thomas.
Thomas for sure.
Thomas, yeah.
Who would vote to get rid of it? I think.
Yeah.
And then obviously Ginsburg and Sotomayor and Kagan would vote against that.
Yeah. I mean, it would come down to Gorsuch and Roberts, or not Gorsuch, Kavanaugh and Roberts.
Right.
But yeah, again, I think the chances of that happening are small. But in this hypothetical world that we're creating here, if it is, struck down, and of course, all of the talk is, if that happens, there's no more
back
abortions.
alley abortions.
There's
Women
no more abortions anywhere in the United States, and so obviously that's not true.
Right.
What happens then if it is shot down?
It just goes back to the states.
It's going to become the state issue.
Yeah, and that's what
it should have been.
New York
that's what
could
President
have
Trump
their
has always been saying. It should be the state's decision.
Right.
But he's
so
against.
New York could have their,
He's against.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you want to have an abortion, go fly your butt up there to New York. Go drive there, whatever. Or go move there. I'm going to make my decision to live in this state because they have these laws that I agree with.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. I mean, like we said yesterday, people in Alabama shouldn't be forced to live under the same laws that New York decides on, and just like New York shouldn't be forced to live under Alabama's laws.
Right.
That's why we're a federation of states,
Right. And there's states' rights,
And each state has its own government. It makes its own rules and laws.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, if the majority of the people are willing to vote for,
and if 46
getting rid of abortion,
states,
then
originally the judges wiped out that, originally when they put Roe v. Wade in, they just negated 46 states, and on behalf of the 4 that were not,
Right.
And back to Amendment 14, it's what you said. I don't know. It says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States or of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due
without due
process of law,
of law. That's the thing. An
Yep.
abortion is the
nor
only way to
denied
kill
any person
somebody
within.
without due process, legally kill someone without due
Well,
process of law.
what about the baby?
What's what
That's
Kyle
what it
said.
said.
Yeah.
They figured out how to legally kill someone by going around the due process of law. Because it also says in the beginning here, it says whoever is born or naturalized.
Yeah.
They're not born yet.
Yeah, but I mean, that you can't really use that because you can't kill someone that's not, if there's an illegal immigrant here, or even illegal, they're not born or naturalized citizen. You're not allowed to kill them either.
Yeah. And the humans are the only species that will kill their young while it's still in the womb.
Well, in the womb, yeah.
In the womb.
Yeah. Lions kill their babies.
Lions and tigers eat their young.
Yeah, but I mean that's after they're born.
Right. Well, I've thought about that many times too. My offspring. But anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they'll kill a pregnant antelope or whatever. I don't think they have any problem with that.
Oh, I don't know. The animal rights people would have all.
Well, I mean, a tiger.
But it's not.
A tiger would kill.
Not,
yeah. No, a tiger.
It's not the antelope killing its own.
But can you imagine if we talk about this graphic video showing an abortion happen and how horrible it is. But even if you had a video like that and somehow you couldn't tell it was a human. Maybe it looked more like an ape or whatever, and you showed it to the animal rights people, they would go bananas. They wouldn't care if it was a human so much, but if it was a monkey or primate or something like that, that would be the most horrible offense you could ever have. So
that is definitely true.
Yeah. So I tend to agree with you. I think it's basically designed to push the issue to the Supreme Court. So we just talked about what if they succeed and Roe v. Wade fails, and it goes back to states' rights, no matter the propaganda spread that women are going to be dying in back alley abortions and
or the Handmaid's Tale.
But what happens if, as we suspect, Roberts doesn't go along with it and Kavanaugh, and so it fails, right? If this measure fails and Roe v. Wade is upheld, I think you made the statement when we were talking about this the other day, that puts the whole movement way back. I mean, that really hurts.
Yeah, if it gets enshrined twice, then.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have a real hard
they
time.
will have so much ammunition.
I think that they're not even gonna hear it.
Probably not. I think Roberts is kind of.
It's like leave it be.
He's the chief right now, right?
He's the chief, but he's not very courageous at all.
Yeah.
He's a politician.
Yeah, and he likes to kind of go the way that the votes are going.
Right.
Which, I mean, I guess, there's something good to be said about that, I guess.
Right. So my problem, as much as I'm against abortion and as much as I would like to see it totally banned, I'm also a pragmatist in what's going to happen. What are the unintended consequences of action here? So I kind of have a little bit of apprehension if we reach too far that we're going to hurt the cause. I would rather see us take, we've had Roe v. Wade since '73. Millions and millions of babies aborted. It's a horrible, horrible national sin.
60 million, I think.
63 million.
63 million. And so
10 times the amount of Jewish people who were killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah, there you go. So yes, I would like it stopped tomorrow, but I also don't want to reach too far and miss. And then we have it, like we just talked about, it's enshrined twice and we can't stop it. And so the volume and the pace continues and we, on into the unforeseeable future and how many more babies die. I would rather see us put stricter and stricter and stricter conditions and limitations on it to curb these numbers down, finally stop it. I just think that's the more pragmatic way, because conservatives are always afraid of being labeled as extremists. Republicans in the Congress are always afraid of that label of extremist, and that's what's going to get applied to everybody on this side of this issue, especially the further we try and go. So that's my fear about this.
Well, there's a total extreme on the other side.
Oh, no question. But they don't get the scrutiny and
No.
the name calling that the Republicans do. So,
And
as much as I'm for the Alabama law in principle, I'm apprehensive of it in practice.
Well, and they make it look like there's huge numbers of people. Like they give these women with their marches and stuff, like all this press and all. I mean, how many of them are there really, compared to the people that really do feel that abortion is wrong, morally wrong, and young people? What's this percentage of young kids like our grandkids' age and, teenagers? They're more and more of them becoming pro-life, and they're seeing it.
Yep.
So these people that scream and holler and the ones that sicken me, there's so few of them compared to the general population of people.
Well, and there's been
they just happen to have a big megaphone with the press, and
there's been calls in recent years to put this on a national ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it would get
the
killed.
Liberals do not.
No, because they would lose.
They would by big numbers,
right?
Huge numbers.
And it's almost everything. It's the elites, and they're few in number, but they have these, like I said, a big platform that they can speak with their megaphone from, and fix the picture so it looks like there's thousands of them there, not more than 100 people there.
Right.
I think that the way, like we talked about earlier, people see the horrors of it. They're just going to make their own mind up and know this is not right. This is wrong. I would not want to support New York's bill. They've gone way too far.
Oh yeah.
So I think that the Supreme Court is probably not going to take it up. I heard a little something on one of these little bit of news that I caught the other day, and I tended to, I don't think they're going to take it up. I think it's just going to be, Alabama made this decision. This is their law, and
yeah, but it'll be struck down if as unconstitutional.
If their state.
Who's going to strike it down if the Supreme Court doesn't take it?
Well, I guess that's true.
Their
too.
state Supreme Court.
Yeah, it can get shut down before then.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about how you think that it may have gone too far, or it may, not be the right method to take to reach your end goals.
Right.
Kind of goes back to one of our previous podcasts where I forget what we called it, but where the ends justify the means. I think that's what we called it.
Right.
Because, while yes, I can definitely see where you're coming from. Let me play, I don't want to say devil's advocate because I'm advocating for unborn children, but, we talked about when does a person become a person,
right.
When, protected by the law.
Right.
Obviously we know that the birth canal does not, impart personhood, or else myself and my twins would not be people because we never went through there.
Right. Or is it the fact that you're alien?
Yeah. We certainly looked alien when we were born. so obviously that doesn't confer personhood. You could say, well, full term, 36 weeks. Um, but obviously there's babies born at 20 weeks that
Sure.
survive.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not an easy thing for them to live through there. They have to,
Right.
do a lot of keeping them alive and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean that they're not people.
Right.
Being conscious, cognizant of your surroundings. You're not a person when you're sleeping. You're not a person if you're in a coma.
Right.
So when does this "you're a person" come into being?
Mhm.
If you say life begins at conception, yes, maybe it does make this law harder to pass and harder to get in front of the Supreme Court or whatever. But and like you said, a woman who's raped, an underage child, 12-year-old girl gets raped, by her father or uncle or whatever.
Mhm.
It's a terrible, horrible thing. But if conception has happened, that's still a person inside of their,
Right.
the girl's womb.
Right.
Um, you know, like I said, you find out when a kid's 10 years old. Oh, Uncle Joe. I don't want to. Not talking about Joe Biden, but um, Uncle Joe raped this girl, and that's where the child came from. You're not
Right.
allowed to kill it then.
Right.
So
And that's what makes this such a tough
it really is,
because
because there's
topic.
been a lot of very pro-life people who have been against the Alabama ban.
Yeah.
I think Trump came out against it. I know Romney did. The what's the guy's name? The 700 Club guy.
Oh, Pat Robertson.
Pat
yeah.
Robertson came out against it.
It's
So there's
because it
been,
doesn't have provision for rape and incest in it.
yeah.
But like you said, I mean, if we're just talking principles, when does life begin? And does rape change the fact that life began at conception? No, it doesn't. Does incest change that? No, it doesn't. But again, I think I don't know about Romney, but I think Pat Robertson, and I didn't hear his statement, but I'm just speculating. Pat Robertson, Donald Trump, I think they're looking more at my argument, the pragmatic side of it.
Yeah, I believe they are. I don't think they're saying that it's good to kill
Right.
babies anyway. But
Because that's the thing. Even when the liberals pushing, more and more and more and more options and longer periods of time that you could, their whole argument was, what about rape and incest? That was the club that they pulled out to whack you over the head with.
Yeah.
And
we
my
always
argument,
take the most extreme.
right, and it's anecdotal
Mhm.
because it's not.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
every
less
case.
than 1% of abortions
Right.
that are performed
Right.
are done because of rape or incest.
Right. And I know that I've talked to many liberals over the years, and I think I've swayed some of their opinions on it. But that's always the argument. What about rape? And I always say that's a very small percentage. I mean, infinitesimally small compared to all the abortions.
Mhm.
And then I say, and also nobody's arguing that. Nobody's arguing that an abortion shouldn't be performed in rape and incest, because in the past there's never been any legislation like the Alabama legislation.
Yeah.
So
But now there has been.
I took that argument away from them when we would discuss this, and then we just talk about the vast majority of abortions that were for convenience or for a myriad of other reasons.
Mhm.
So you could tend to sway people's opinions more there, and it's just like I said, the one on TV the other night, the Democrats said yes, they would back the bill if it had, the rape and incest exclusion. So
Yeah.
that makes it tough, because again, it still is a life, and you're still advocating taking that. So that even makes it hard from the pro-life person's standpoint, That's
Well, I
what-
think they-
so what is the, you know, obviously the reason that incest is frowned upon, is there
Birth
tends to
defect.
be birth defects and that kind of stuff.
right.
So we're going to go ahead and just nip that in the bud. But we talked about earlier, oh, your kid was born with Down syndrome, even though there's no incest involved or whatever, he still has a birth defect.
Right.
So we should be able to kill him. I mean,
No.
you know, like if you're
I
going
know.
to agree with one, then you got to, you know, like that's
No.
what, I forget what the guy's name, but he's a professor at Princeton. And, you know, at least he's intellectually honest about it. You know, we say life starts at conception, so you shouldn't be able to kill your baby, you know, regardless, because it's a human life, it's alive.
Right.
He believes that life doesn't begin until, you know, you're kind of able to, I think like 3 or 4 years old or whatever, where you're cognizant of your surroundings and, you know, you have a sense of self, that sort of thing. And so he says you should be able to kill your children up until they're 3 or 4. Like I said, I mean, at least he's intellectually honest about it.
Right.
But you know, you can't go both ways.
No,
That's my point here. You can't say,
Yep.
you know, life begins at conception, except if
Right.
you were raped.
Oh, I agree with
Then
you.
it's
I
not
agree.
a person, and we can kill it.
I agree with you 100%.
You know,
100%.
and I, you know, I understand what you're saying by,
Right.
you know, you've gone too far, or not, you know, but it's harder to argue or whatever. But I
Well,
think
it's not only that. It's not even the argument that I might have with a pro-choice person. I think in the long run, it's gonna lead to more abortion in you know, over time, because I think it's going to hurt. You know, we're look at how much ground the pro-life movement has 10 years or so. Like Linda said, there's more and more younger people and more people that are realizing really what.
well, they had a big turnout at that one in
Yeah.
Philadelphia where
Right.
that representative was badgering old women and children.
Oh yeah.
And every
Like
year, the
1,000
Right
people, I
to
think,
Life
people turned out there.
march gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
You know, they never cover that either. You know, but
Right. So we've made great strides, and I'd hate to see us throw that all away to
and I
by trying to take too big of a bite on.
I
That's
hope
my
that
whole
Alabama, because I haven't read into, you know, all the other things that they may be doing. Are they defunding Planned Parenthood? I mean, see,
I don't think
they've
that's
got the
in the law.
provision in there. The doctor, if
Yeah.
he or she does the procedure, is
99
Breaking
years
the
in
law.
jail.
they're breaking the law, and they're
And it's not just a
thrown
slap
in
on the
jail.
wrist.
Yeah,
Yeah, 99 years. You get this.
99 years.
yeah. I mean, and shut the clinic down or what. I mean, they should do stuff monetarily. That's where they get hurt. That's why they put these abortion Planned Parenthoods right in the middle of a low income, people of color neighborhood. That's where they're at.
Yeah.
For
We
a
talked
reason.
about that
For a
too, you know, like
reason.
there's a bunch of people talking, you know, kind of pro-choice people, and they're saying, you know, this is discrimination against women of color and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I mean, we're not breaking any news here or whatever, but the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, was like a super racist.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
She
the
wanted to get
reason
rid of
why
it.
she really wanted to push abortion was to get rid of black and brown people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And-
It was even stated it was to take care of the Negro.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and in New York, you know,
people
as
don't
a
see
black
that. People
fetus,
yeah.
have
What was that statistic?
you have a better chance as a black fetus in New York of being aborted than being born.
Yeah, and that Herman Gosnell, horrific things that he did
Mhm.
Right.
there. And
That's
I mean,
Philadelphia. He
I
was
just
in there.
wish you had somebody that had a voice that was like a Donald Trump that doesn't back down and tells it like it is, you know, where you say, look, this is the history of Margaret Sanger and her organization. And look what it's done to people of color, and you talk about others being racist and, haters and all. I mean, look at this. This is just like right in your face. You can't deny this, but there's nobody that wants to talk about it. Even,
and
on
that's why
Fox News, they
black
just
population
mention
has
it.
stayed so static for as long as it has.
Yeah,
The
15% of the
Latino people have overtaken African American folks in terms of population.
Right.
And so disingenuous for that person to say this is that to curb abortion is an assault against people of color or black people. I mean, that's just hugely disingenuous, and it all is frankly racist, because you're basically saying, oh, these black people can't control their urges, or they can't use prophylactics, or they can't do whatever. And they just
and they can't take care of their children. They
exactly.
Like that one guy, the Democratic representative in Alabama, said, we can kill him now, or we can kill him later in the electric chair. That's
I mean,
a pretty racist thing to say.
It's a racist attitude. It's just like with the voter ID. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is racist against black people because they're too dumb to get an ID. I mean, it's basically what they're saying. I mean, how racist and condescending are the liberals who argue that point?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And another thing, I mean, if you're like that professor you talked about, you can kill your child up to 2. Who are you?
Yeah.
You're sitting there in your high and mighty ivory tower spewing out this stuff, but you were allowed to live past the age of 3. What the hell's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like all the pro-choice people. Their mothers were pro-life.
Obviously,
they're such hypocrites.
What if there was a law passed that college professors who spout stupid things can be killed on sight? Because and it's perfectly legal because we say it is. It's just ridiculous.
It's all about the high and mighty, the liberal, the elite that know better than everybody else because they're just so much smarter.
You can't take care of yourself.
Well, I don't want to put all the. I mean, the liberals deserve plenty of the blame, but we've talked about it before. That we had a Republican majority in all branches of government, and we didn't defund Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
Yeah. We talk all this game. I mean, not us. Obviously, we're not in.
When was that?
But it was when Trump was first in office.
I mean, he had 2 years.
There was talk of it, but they didn't. And there again, it's like the Republicans are
a bunch
scared
of
to death to
weenies. They're weenies. They're weenies. That's what they are. There's just a few.
They're cowards.
There's a few of them that are in that. What is it called? The party
Freedom Caucus.
Freedom Caucus that have some cojones. But the rest of them are a bunch of weenies. Like we have to get along to get along, and I'm being reelected and I have no backbone. And that's why Donald Trump is the president, because people were sick and tired of all of that mamby-pamby garbage,
Exactly right.
Well, it's like that quote we had the last one, Democrats are the party that says government will make you smarter, taller, richer, and remove the crabgrass from your lawn. The Republicans are the party that says government doesn't work, and then they get elected and prove it.
Yeah, that's right. And in many ways, the Republicans aren't any better.
Yeah, because I mean, we criticize the left, rightfully so. We criticize the court for, passing legislation, but the reason they're passing legislation is because the legislative branch of our government, the ones that are supposed to make the laws, just kick the can down the road. I mean, that's why we have all these regulations with the EPA and all that. They're executive branch functions. The legislature should come up with those laws and be held accountable for them, but they don't. They just say, here, the president's going to appoint these people.
And then
Like, don't blame us. We didn't do anything wrong. I mean, you could
Right,
be
but they'll
elected.
still sit back and complain
Yeah.
about what the president does or whoever. I know it's they're again, all they are is a bunch. They're cowardly. They're more interested in themselves
And
than
I think
the
they need
people
to
that
have
they
a system for the Congress. If you're not, I like the immigration. If you're not proving yourself with good legislation that's going to help their constituents, then your pay drops down to nothing. If you're not doing
It
anything,
should,
you
because
don't have a
if you're not
paycheck.
doing things that help your constituents, you should no longer be elected.
exactly.
That's the problem.
And
That's what
I mean,
but
that's what,
there's so many
yeah,
races that are run unopposed.
Yeah,
Down
and that's,
here we have, I mean, I like our representative, but I mean, he runs unopposed almost every year.
Mm.
And if he wasn't good, I mean, yeah, maybe somebody would run against him, but
yeah,
he would just keep. I mean, that's like the seat that Ocasio-Cortez won.
yeah.
It's. I mean, she won a primary, and she was gonna win the. If she won the primary, she's gonna win the election.
Right.
because there was nobody running against her.
Yeah.
And that's what it does. It does boil down to having an educated electorate.
Yep.
And we don't have that.
Yep.
Everybody's too lazy.
Yep.
They don't give a crap. It's all about me and what makes me happy and my little technology. And,
Yeah, that's a good point.
that's what it's all about.
That was one of the prerequisites
Right.
for our Constitution that the founding fathers said is only good for. They said a praying electorate and a informed electorate,
Mhm.
because it's not going to work otherwise.
Yeah.
Because you get people that are going to be able to get in there. They're going to see that they can line their own pockets, that they can say all the right words while doing all the wrong things, and people will just continue to elect them and give them more and more power, and that's what has happened.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a topic for another day too. Is
Absolutely.
how
Term limits.
term limits. Democrat Party just dupe those blacks into voting for them every time, like Johnson said.
Yeah, but that is
mean,
getting a little bit.
That they don't know the history.
I've seen a lot of things lately where there's a lot of people really this whole big walk away movement, hashtag walk away movement, is made up of a lot of liberals, a lot of young people, and a lot of minorities are actually starting to see the truth and walking away from the Democratic Party. So that's at least a little bit of a bright side. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I don't want everybody to think that we're just saying that the minority population is uneducated on the issues. I mean, there's plenty of
everybody is.
Yeah.
90% of the population out there is really uneducated.
And it's. I mean, I guess we have a Department of Education because somebody in their wisdom somewhere, George Washington and the founding fathers had an idea for a Department of Education and a Secretary of Education. It was supposed to be at the state level and the local level. Those people were the ones educated.
George Washington didn't have the idea for a Department of Education.
No. I'm saying that it was a local. It was churches and parents involved in their children things and how to be a citizen. And now we've come so far. It's up to the schools to do everything. We're the mommy, we're the daddy, we're the provider, we're the everything. Give you your teeth, make sure your teeth get cleaned, and you're getting your food, your breakfast, everything. Let me tuck you into bed. I mean, it's everything, and it shouldn't be.
The Department of Education was implemented by Jimmy Carter.
Yep.
Another wonderful president.
Probably one of the worst.
Still kicking. Still kicking.
Still as liberal as ever.
I mean, I don't know I mean, this isn't really related to what we were talking about, but
Here's what we just said.
I don't really know much about Jimmy Carter personally. Obviously,
He's a peanut
to let the
farmer.
cat out of the bag, I live in Georgia, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are fond of Jimmy Carter,
Sure.
being a president from Georgia.
Georgia boy. Yep.
And I have heard from them that he was, a really great guy, really nice guy, this, that, and the other. And, we always hear about how Donald Trump is such a jerk. And,
Yeah.
just because you're a nice person doesn't mean you're going to be a good president.
Right.
That, and he's proved that.
He proved that, yeah.
And I don't want to say Donald Trump's the best president in the world, by any stretch of the means, but
He's the right man.
We've had plenty of not nice people presidents that have been.
Yes, plenty. Both sides of both parties. Yeah.
Yep.
But one more thing I wanted to touch on, where they talk about the rape, that we need to have abortion for cases of rape and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I sent it to you guys, but there was I listened to some of the Daily Wire podcasts,
right?
Ben Shapiro and all of them. But they have a guy. His name's Matt Walsh. He's on there, and he's a Catholic guy. He's very pro life. He's the one that organized that rally in Pennsylvania against the representative.
Right?
Did they throw him out?
No, I don't.
Did he get fired or not?
The representative?
Yeah,
he apologized.
I know he apologized.
You can't be fired.
Well, I mean,
you're an elected official.
He could be.
He could resign if he wanted to.
Be censured.
Yeah, they could censure him. Yeah, like they did with what's that? The guy from Iowa. They censored him.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Had to step down from his committees and such.
Yeah, but he brought up a statistic the other day, and he was saying, because a lot of people were criticizing his take. Obviously, his take on it is he is in favor of the Alabama bill, and a lot of people were criticizing him, for making women, like these rapists get to pick the mother of their child now, and yada yada yada. And he said that abortion is the best thing in the world for a rapist because it destroys any kind of evidence. And he said there's been a whole bunch he read off a bunch of different cases where Planned Parenthood, like fathers, stepfathers, uncles, people that have raped their children, have brought them to Planned Parenthood to get an abortion. One girl had 2 abortions in a 4-month period, like a 13 or 14-year-old girl.
Wow.
And it wasn't reported by Planned Parenthood, which, it's supposed to be by law.
Right.
This was like her stepfather. Like, and neither of her.
They didn't want to report him.
Yeah.
He was
neither of her biological parents were informed of this, that she was getting an abortion. He was taking him and paying for him.
Wow.
So, there is another side to the whole, well, they should be able to, have abortions for rape or whatever. I mean, you're just letting the rapist kind of hide, because if the baby was forced to be born, then you could do a DNA test.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's your proof.
Yep. Well, and it's like, even though we talked about yesterday, deadbeat dad, abortion is the best thing for him. Because if a woman says it's my body, it's my choice, he could say, "But it's her body, it's her problem, it's her." And the abortion happens, and he's off scot-free, and he can go get somebody else pregnant, not have any consequences or any responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
so.
That's
the feminists are all talking.
That I just can't follow. Like all these, men, you need to shut up and stay out of the way unless you agree with us. And if you're a man that is rooting for women to have abortions, you are a, pardon my French, but a piece of Shiite. Because that's the most disgusting thing in the world, I think. Like a man rooting for abortion.
Yeah. But like we were saying yesterday, but he's seen as a hero to the left,
Hmm. Well,
where he's
somebody
not.
posted a thing and said, men, let us hear your stories about how, abortion has helped you. Like they always have these things like, the women, I was in college and I wouldn't have had my career if I hadn't have gotten an abortion, blah, blah, blah. So somebody wanted men to give their take on it.
Yeah.
And
How about the men who didn't want the woman abortion, who felt that was their child and they
yeah,
wanted? About those men,
yeah.
that baby is just as much, even though it's body takes two people. There's two components to it.
Mm,
It's just as much his child as it is her child. Well, that's not a popular stance to take.
yeah. And I mean, you can go over, like I've heard it's in their body, it's this parasitic life form or whatever.
It's not even part of them.
Yeah. I mean,
Housed
it's
there.
dependent on the mother, obviously,
Right,
but
and it draws
yeah,
nourishment.
it's a separate life form. Like I gave an
The
example
blood,
one
the
time.
blood, the blood is from the father. The blood is not from the mother in a baby. Did you know that?
I don't think the blood is from the father.
The blood is from the father.
Do they have a
It's a step.
intravenous
It's no,
transplant?
no, what? No, the blood does not come from the baby's
The
blood
blood
is
comes
exactly
from the
blood.
baby who has
The
been
blood, it's the
created by
baby's blood, but the father, there's different parts are contributed, some more from the mother, some more from the father, and the blood is contributed more from the father
like
than the
blood
mother.
type. You mean? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know if it's blood type,
I was going
because
to
I
shoot you
know
down because I'm a different blood
there's
type than you. So
genetic.
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
the
think
same
it's
blood type as mom and not as you. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But
um,
and I don't. I guess I spoke before. I mean, I've heard this before. I can't remember the whole argument, but it's not the blood. The baby and the mother do not share blood. It's a baby is a
yeah, it's
separate
a
entity.
closed system. Yeah,
Right.
Right.
yeah.
But something about it, and I'm at a loss to remember exactly what it was. Is drawn more from the father than the mother. But genetics between the mother and father still play.
Well, you get 23 chromosomes from the mother and 23 from the father.
Right. And
Yeah,
the genetic, dominant and recessive and all
Mhm.
that determines the blood type.
Yeah.
But and I'll have to research that. I'm making a fool of myself, but there's something about it that the blood actually has more to do with the father than the. So
Well,
I'll
that
have
may
to
be
look.
true. I'm not an expert on that either. But I mean, an example I gave one time to someone who was arguing with me was, if like the Siamese twins or whatever.
Right.
If I don't know if that's even PC to say, conjoined twins, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Probably
Wow.
not PC to say
You're
Siamese
racist.
twins anymore. But you share a
I am.
liver or whatever. Like that one movie Stuck on You. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
No, I don't think I did.
Greg Kinnear and Matt Damon were brothers,
Okay.
and Matt Damon had all of the parts, and Greg Kinnear had to share the liver with him, right?
Okay.
So that's why he looked way older than Matt Damon.
Okay.
It was a goofy movie.
Right.
I don't think it was a pro-choice statement or anything, or a pro-life
Right.
statement. But
Right.
but the point is, if you have a conjoined twin that depends on your liver or whatever, pancreas or whatever to
Right.
live, are you allowed to kill that, your sibling there? I mean, they're a parasitic life form to you at that point,
Yeah.
right? They don't offer anything to you, and they're taking away your, they're using your organs,
Yeah.
and obviously, no, you're not allowed to kill that person.
Right.
Especially if, okay, we have these conjoined twins. It sucks for them. It's a difficult life to live, but in 9 months we'll be able to separate you and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Can you kill your sibling there? I mean, they're dependent on you. They're sucking the life force out of you. They're a parasitic life form, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
But you're not allowed to just kill them,
No.
just
Yeah.
like with a baby.
And in
Like,
9
yes,
months,
it
they'll
is
be
dependent
separated.
on you, and without you, especially at the beginning, the baby will die.
Yeah. But
you know.
even after the baby's born, without you or somebody,
Yeah.
they'll die.
But
So-
but I mean, eventually it's going to be over, and it will be its
And
own.
in many ways, having children is like having a bunch of parasites in your home.
I agree 100%.
Okay.
But these women that, that boast, and, it's all about the attention, I'm sure, that they're getting, that they're boasting and they're laughing about having,
Shout your abortion.
they're very ignorant. They not understand birth control.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
they
that's
can't.
what they kind of view abortion as.
I
think
know.
in a lot of cases.
Yeah, but that's
that's why they call it
ignorant.
reproductive
You could
rights. Like, it's not reproductive. A reproduction has already happened.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And that was
you can't
always
stop the printer after it's already made the
but
copy.
I mean, if you've done this several times, it's like, duh.
Well,
What do I need to do? Duh. For
when Roe v. Wade was first passed, that was one of the arguments that conservatives had. And the liberals said, oh, no. This isn't going to be for contraception. It isn't that. Abortion should be rare, legal, and
safe, legal, and rare, right?
Yeah, whatever.
But
so
that's the thing too. Like, if it's just a procedure, if it's just removing, a polyp or whatever, why does it need to be rare? You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. But see that's where this thing has gone. It's gone from that, even in the minds of liberals, or at least in their verbiage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hillary Clinton said that safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah, but to now it is a woman's right anytime, if it's inconvenient, if they're not ready to have a baby and they find themselves pregnant, we would just terminate the baby and that's it.
Yeah.
So it is. It's contraception more than anything else.
Yeah, that's just ignorance.
Yeah,
gone
absolutely.
to seed.
Absolutely. Well, the whole concept is really.
Yeah.
But
and it's all about me and my body. Well, you're using your body, somebody else, to enjoy what you're doing, and then not, taking responsibility for the consequences. Except, the easy way out is to just do this.
Right.
Well, I've also heard arguments. I wanted to get you guys' take on this. I know you got to go, Mom, but real quick, there's been talks about in vitro fertilization.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard this?
No, I don't think so.
So when they do, if you are having trouble conceiving a child, some couples will do in vitro fertilization. They remove some eggs and sperm and mix them together and then implant them.
Right.
Yeah, that's like what the lesbians do.
Okay.
Whatever. They want to have a kid,
or people that can't have a kid,
I know.
or people that want to.
So what they usually do is they shove 6 or 8 fertilized eggs in there, and because there's a chance that they won't latch on, but sometimes they do. A lot of them do latch on, and then they'll terminate. Say 6 of them latched on, they'll terminate 5 or 4 or whatever.
Right.
Because obviously the parent doesn't want to have sextuplets or whatever. I mean, that's what happened to the Octomom lady.
She had them all.
She had them all, yeah. But it was in vitro fertilization, and they all latched on, and she had them.
Right.
So what is your take on that?
I mean, whether that's right to
right
them or not.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then
it's still abortion.
Right.
I mean, that conception has occurred and it has latched on.
Right.
That is a life that is being snuffed out.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and that's these things require some thought. That you just kind of threw that at me. I hadn't considered that, but the knee jerk reaction. A human life that is going to be.
Can you repeat that? You broke up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I said the knee jerk reaction is that yes, it is a human. That once it's latched on and it begins to grow, it's a human life, so it's no different than anything else. But when you're, you know, and I'm not talking against it for one reason or another. So there's benefits to that, and you know, so these are all things that make this a very complicated and difficult subject.
Mhm.
No question. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I would, like I said before, I think we just need to be working towards moving the bar to have less and less and less abortions, and eventually um, the will of the people basically just saying we're done.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
it's been a
agree.
stain on our country and
Yeah, it really is.
and humanity for a long time. And
So
And we
much
talk about how
innocent blood.
backwards and Bible thumping America is, and Europe is this liberal paradise.
yeah,
But
yeah,
in most countries in Europe, it's 12 weeks is the cutoff to get an
yeah.
abortion.
Right. And then when you look at the liberals talk about this is so good for women because they're going to have an opportunity to earn more money and keep more money and everything else. But we did a whole podcast or a whole radio show when we were doing our radio show on the financial impacts to the country of all these aborted babies that aren't here today buying
To pay
homes and
taxes.
cars and paying taxes and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. It's a huge financial impact to the country that nobody ever talks about. Not that it should be, that's the most important thing,
Yeah,
obviously, but it is still a factor.
Yeah. And I just wonder, just when was the very first abortion?
Well,
And
there's
what was
been
the
long.
justification for
Yeah.
it? What was
Cain
the
and
just?
Abel.
I know.
That
Well,
was a post
no,
choice.
Yeah.
that was
That was the
Well, that
87th
was
trimester.
that occurred in New York.
that was a
That
murder.
was 87th trimester abortion.
Yeah,
But I
right.
mean, and like I listened to the podcast that Ben Shapiro did about Christians and conservatives and religion and all of that. God doesn't say in His Word at all anywhere that there's a provision for abortion. There's nothing in there. And what
It
is
says,
his
I
stand
knew
on
you
it? He
before you
says
were
right from
born.
the get-go, I'm setting before you today life or death, and you need to choose life.
Right.
I mean, there's
And he
nothing
says
plainer than that.
Mother's womb
Right.
knit you
So
together.
just for curiosity, what made this industry what it is today?
Yeah. The
What
first
was
recorded
the
evidence of
reason?
induced abortion is from Egyptian Ebers Papyrus in 1550 BC.
For what reason?
Didn't want the baby.
Didn't want the baby.
I don't know.
It said they did like they made if the mother didn't want to. I guess there were slaves too, and if you didn't want your slave to be have a
Right.
baby,
You had more important work for them to do.
yeah, they said they would make them do strenuous labor, climbing, weightlifting, to try to induce a miscarriage, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been talk about that too. Like they said, women are going to be charged if they have a miscarriage or whatever. Like the last time that someone was charged for basically forcing themselves to have a miscarriage was like 1551 in England. That was the last time someone who, a woman was charged with, giving a self-abortion, I guess.
Wasn't there some guy that was kicked his girlfriend in the stomach to try and get the baby to die?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean that.
I can't remember the circumstance.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in during the Holocaust where they would do stuff like like when they would do their tests and stuff. The Nazis, they would see what they could do to force a woman to have miscarriage.
Just
It's a
abandoning
tough
humanity
issue.
to man.
That's
Well, and anybody that's listening, we would certainly appreciate hearing your comments on this. What do you think about some of the things we've talked about today? Whether you agree or not, that's fine. We'd just like to hear your, and please, if you whether you agree or not, if you do contact us, we'd want to not only hear your opinion, but the reasons for that, because there may be something that we're considering.
yeah, and we'll read and discuss your email, on the podcast.
Absolutely.
We may have to edit it if you include any
we've got a
colorful
bleep,
language.
a bleeper we can bleep.
Yeah.
You bleep and bleep bleeps. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, we obviously we all kind of fall on the same side of the debate. Certainly there's variations on a theme, but yeah, I mean, if you have some good arguments on the pro-choice side, send them our way. We'll discuss them, and heck, maybe you'll change our minds. I doubt it.
Who knows?
There's always a chance, I suppose.
It's always is very interesting to debate people with different points of view.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the country was built on.
That's what it's
That's
supposed to be
exactly right.
about, debating it, and then you come up with a solution together.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, tough topic, but important topic.
I agree.
All right. Well, is that we reached the end of what we're going to discuss here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we
Okay.
touched on all the. I'm sure there's something I'll think of as soon as we
Well,
sign
certainly.
off. But I always do.
Yep. Yep.
But I think that was everything that we wanted to touch on.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, if you are so inclined, let us know what you think, and hope you enjoyed the discussion. And I guess until we meet again, we'll say to go out there and change your world. And any final words, Kyle?
That's it. Change your world. Have a
Change
good
your world. All right. Till next time.
Adios.
Thanks. Bye.